Welcome back to Ion Radio. I'm Ken, and today I'm going to be going through the Learn to Play mission in the Star Trek Into the Unknown preview kit. This is an upcoming miniatures game from Wizkids designed for 2 players, where during the course of the mission selected, you're going to be exploring anomalies, adjusting your alert status, and when necessary, unloading your vast array of weapons into your opponent to make sure that you control the battlefield. For purposes of this episode, I am going to be focusing in on the ships in the scenario in the preview kit, which include the USS Defiant and a Jem'Hadar attack ship. So rather than create a rules dump video, I'm going to be going through the rules and show you how they interact with the actions that can be taken during the course of the game. So it is possible that the rules may be changed or clarified after this video releases. So right now I'm doing the best that I can based on the rule set that I have in hand. Hold on to the nearest bulkhead as we jump to warp speed in Star Trek Into the Unknown. Engage. We are going to go through how a starship functions and some of the basic rules included in the introductory mission at Perdition's Gate. Each game is separated into 2 parts or acts. The first act, the overture, will go over the map setup, mission objectives, and how the second act will begin. Star Trek Into the Unknown is played on a 3-foot by 3-foot play area. The single star system involved is centered in the middle of the play area and has a boundary of 13 inches in radius. Fortunately for us, when you place the range 12 ruler in contact with the system marker, we have found the edge of the star system. We can mark this with the curved boundary markers. I've already set up our objective tokens on the map and included the appropriate control markers, 2 blue for the Federation and 2 orange for the Dominion. The system also includes 3 anomaly tokens, numbered 1 to 3, that have been randomized and placed in their appropriate positions during setup. I am now adding the 2 starships into the sector. The Jem'Hadar attack ship will start in the southeastern portion of the system. We are assigning it the ship ID marker of 1 and the System 1 token as well, which designates that this ship is in the system. Looking at the ship display, we will set the alert dial to Yellow Alert 1. All other dials will be set to their starting positions with the star. The attack ship will start with 6 energy, 5 hull, and crew stats of 3, 4, and 2 for its respective command, ops, and science values. The alert dial has 6 different values in it, from left to right: the recharge rate, available engine power, weapons power, instruments power, fore and aft shields, and the current alert status. The Defiant is assigned ship ID number 2 and begins outside of the system. The alert status for the Defiant is set to green 1, and the rest of the dials to their starting values as well. Both ships have crew assigned to various different stations located on the bridge of their respective starships. You will note that officers are placed with their readied side up. We are now ready to start the game. I mentioned earlier that each mission begins with the overture. The situation in this mission revolves around the 3 anomaly locations. Typically, a ship will expose each anomaly token and the numbered side if it is within 2 inches of the token during the start of the hazard phase. The intromission also has a special mission action that can be taken. This involves a threat analysis action, which may remove control markers and possibly score victory points. Let's take a look at the phases of a round. Each round is broken up into 5 phases: the priority phase, the standby phase, the hazard phase, the ready phase, and the hail phase. In the priority phase, players will take turns giving priority orders to their ship. This will require an officer to commit to taking that action. During the standby phase, each ship may be given a single standby order. This is a great way to add in a bonus action after all ships have completed their orders in the previous phase. During the hazard phase, effects from damage cards, anomalies, and other effects for the scenario will take place. In the ready phase, portions of the fleet are reset, officers are readied, and reserve energy is refreshed. And finally, the hail phase. This phase includes abilities to negotiate with other players. However, it is not used in the initial learning game. Now that we've reviewed the round, let's start turn 1. The Federation player is currently outside of the system and needs to move the Defiant. This will require the warp action. As this is the priority phase, and Benjamin Sisko is in the captain's chair, Sisko is therefore flipped to his committed side. He will give a priority order to take the warp action. The warp action has a cost of technical, social, and reserve. Sisko has at least 1 level in both technical and social skills. However, the Defiant still needs to spend a reserve energy point to engage warp power. The maximum warp factor for the Defiant is listed here, the unit's warp drive stat. Warp speed is also limited by the current engine stat. In this example, the Federation player has decided to move at warp 7. The ship's engine power stat of 10 easily supports this speed. Warp maneuvers cover large distances and are required to enter or leave a system. The ruler is now placed alongside the Defiant, and the ship warps forward 14 inches. After moving, the Defiant is now within 2 inches of the objective token and 2 inches of an anomaly token. Note that anomalies are not revealed until the hazard phase. As the ship is now within the system, a System 1 token is added to the base. This concludes the Federation player's turn, and play passes on to the Dominion player. Seeing an aggressive move by the Defiant, this attack ship decides to move closer to the center of the system. To do so, the Jem'Hadar II will commit himself to use the impulse action at the helm. The impulse action requires a technical skill and a reserve power to engage. However, the Jem'Hadar II has no levels in technical skills. Because of this, the player must spend 2 reserve energy, 1 for the required energy cost and 1 for the technical skill icon. The turning tool is placed on the port side of the ship and rotated to almost the first notch. Note that a ship's maximum speed and turning ability are also located on the alert dial. The ruler is placed in the slot on the turning tool. Opting to move only 5 inches, the turning tool is then moved to the appropriate distance along the ruler. The attack ship then advances to the new location aligned with the tool. Impulse maneuvers allow for the heading of the ship to be adjusted either before or after the movement, but not both. At the completion of the move, the attack ship is now within 2 inches of the anomaly token. This may come into effect during the hazard phase. This will end the Dominion player's turn, and play returns to the Federation player. As the way to win the game is to collect victory tokens, the Defiant looks to take the special mission action, Threat Analysis. This mission action must be taken by the officer at Instruments, and the ship must be within sensor range of an objective token. The redoubtable engineer stands ready with the objective point at 2 inches of the Defiant. This test has a difficulty of 2 and uses the command stat and adds the discipline skill if the officer has it. Fortunately, the Jem'Hadar ship is not within sensor range, or the difficulty would increase by 1. The Defiant has a command stat of 3, which adds 3 intuition dice into the dice pool. As the engineer does not have the discipline skill, no expertise dice are gathered. The dice are rolled, granting us 1 analysis, 1 success, and 1 blank. The threat analysis action allows the players to re-roll dice up to the instrument's value, in this case, 2. As the test requires 2 successes, the player chooses to re-roll both the blank and the analysis results. The re-roll reproduces the analysis result, however a breakthrough success has also been rolled. The sum total of successes, 2, is equal to the test difficulty. Therefore the test was a success, and this objective has been analyzed. The blue control marker is removed from the objective token, and the Federation player now scores 1 victory point. We can resolve post-outcome effects of the test at this time. The breakthrough success die is spent, scoring an additional victory point. The analysis result die is also spent to move the influence marker 1 space towards the blue player's side of the influence track. The influence track is placed at the start of the mission and shows the development of the mission leading to the second act, the complication. During the games, the marker is moved along this track by spending analysis results. Once the overture ends, the complication belonging to the player matching the position of the influence marker is revealed. As the complications match a faction's strengths, it is wise to try and keep the mission influence in your favor. It is once again the Dominion player's turn. As they are behind in score and influence, they decide to press the attack. The fire weapons action allows for the ship to fire multiple times, limited by available energy and weapons. There is no cost required to take this action. However, as this is still a priority phase, the officer assigned to Tactical, Talak Talan, is committed to firing at the Defiant. The attack ship has weapons power of 3. This is also the maximum amount of reserve power that can be spent during this action. Choosing to fire the phased polaron beams, weapon arc and range are both checked. The Defiant is within the 6-inch range, and 2 of the 3 polaron beams can fire through the fore arc. The third can only fire out the aft arc and is unavailable for this action. This will allow the attack ship to fire its phased polaron beams twice. Let's walk through the first attack. 2 of the 3 available weapons power are spent to gather 2 intuition dice. As this is the first attack, the ordnance skill can be used to gather additional dice. Talak Talan has Ordnance 2, adding 2 black expertise dice. The dice are rolled, resulting in 2 blanks, 1 analysis, and 1 success. Wanting a stronger result, Talak Talan's Relentless 1 ability is used to re-roll an intuition die. The blank now becomes a success. The Defiant has an evasion stat of 2, and there are 2 successes, thus scoring a hit. To make it more serious, the Dominion player spends the analysis result to activate Pierce 1. This reduces the Defiant's 4 shields by 1 to 0. The Defiant is now unable to use its 4 shields to protect itself. This effect lasts for the entire action. The hits sustained are equal to the number of success results. The Defiant starts taking hull damage, reducing the value from 6 to 4. 2 things have happened while the Defiant takes damage. First, the damage status changed from light to medium. While taking damage, a ship cannot be taken beyond the point that the damage status changes. If, for example, the Defiant were to have taken 3 damage, the remaining point would be ignored. Secondly, a critical effect icon was passed. Critical effects require a damage card to be drawn and the effect to be applied. In this case, Weapons EPS Offline is drawn, taking the Defiant's tactical station offline. A new repair action has opened up as a result of the damage card. This concludes the Dominion's first attack. However, they committed a hostile act, and the Dominion directive card is flipped from its calm to the hostile side. Directive cards are a reflection of the faction's goals and standard operating procedures. These cards offer ways of gaining additional victory points or to show methods to avoid penalties. These cards have a calm and a hostile side, representing either a cautious approach to scenarios or their aggressive stance towards opposing vessels. Depending on the side shown, Those rules are in effect. For the learning game, only the combat directive is used. Because the directive card was flipped, the Dominion player scores 2 negative victory points. The attack ship still has 1 weapon power and reserve energy left to spend. The fire weapons attack procedure can continue with another weapon volley. As Talak Talan was committed to the first attack, the Dominion player decides to fire a photon torpedo. The cost of firing a photon torpedo is 1 weapon power, and the fighter's launcher status shows ready. The turning tool is placed in the front arc of the attack ship and rotated within the torpedo's turning value of 1. The torpedo is placed in the notch on the turning tool and assigned an endurance marker between 0 and 2. For this torpedo, the endurance is set to 1. As additional firing would require the expenditure of reserve energy, the Dominion player decides to conclude the fire weapons action. A weapons fired token is placed on the attack ship's base. With both players looking ahead at needing to move officers or repeat actions, both the Federation and Dominion player pass on their next priority phase turns. The standby phase can now begin. During the standby phase, the non-priority player, in this case the Dominion player, may take the first turn. Expecting more combat during the game, they use the Call Alert action and adjust the alert dial 1 position from Yellow Alert 1 to Red Alert 1. The Federation player sees the incoming torpedo and orders a hard to starboard impulse turn. This will cost the Defiant 2 reserve energy, as an officer cannot be committed to this standby action. Moving 7 inches towards the edge of the system, the Defiant hopes to repair some of the damage and return fire later in the game. Now that all ships have been given a standby order, projectiles on the map move. As there are no weapon locks, the lone torpedo is limited in its movement capabilities. Due to its inertia rule, the torpedo must make a move and slowly angles to port by 4 inches. With no units to collide with and no enemy ships within the 1-inch blast radius, the torpedo does not detonate. The torpedo's endurance is reduced from 1 to 0 and is then removed from the play area. As there are no more units to activate, the standby phase ends. During the hazard phase, we will resolve all hazard effects as described by damage cards and mission rules. There is an anomaly token within range 2 of the Jem'Hadar fighter, and that is revealed at this time. The flip side of the anomaly token is a 2, which results in a wreckage field. Given the choice of a peril token or spending 2 reserve power, the Dominion player gains the peril token. As all hazard effects have been completed, we move on to the ready phase. During the ready phase, each player will resolve all steps in order. First, the priority player resolves them, and then the standby player. Federation player will ready both of its committed officers and relocates the redoubtable engineer to engineering so that the EPS grid can be reset during the next turn. As a ready ability, the ship is able to increase its reserve power dial by an amount equal to the recharge value and the technical skills of an officer in engineering. In this case, 3, 1 from the alert dial and 2 from the technical skill of the engineer. The Dominion player proceeds through the ready phase, readying its 2 officers and gaining 2 reserve power from the recharge stat shown on the alert dial. Under normal circumstances, we would move into the hail phase. This is when fleets can negotiate with each other. However, negotiation is not used during the learning mission. As both players have completed all phases, the player who had the priority token, in this case the Federation player, gives it to their opponent. The current round then ends, and a new round begins. Skipping ahead to the end of turn 3, the board state looks like this. The Defiant's armor has been compromised, hull is down to 1, 3 points of reserve power remain, and the ship is at Red Alert 1. The Jem'Hadar fighter, on the other hand, is down to 4 hull, 2 reserve energy, and also at Red Alert 1. The difference in score, however, 3 points for the Federation and 1 for the Jem'Hadar. Note the Jem'Hadar does have 2 negative victory points. As we have reached the end of round 3, we are able to begin the complication. As the influence marker is on the Dominion side of the influence track, the Dominion complication, Outpost Ambush, will begin. Control markers are placed on the existing objective tokens. You'll note it is reversed from the initial mission setup. These objective tokens now represent Federation and Dominion outposts looking to do battle. During the subsequent hazard phases, outposts will fire at opposing ships within 4 inches with their weapons arrays. A new mission action, Demolition Salvo, is now available. This grants new ways to gain victory tokens. The game will now continue until all control markers have been removed, one of the player's ships have been disabled or destroyed, or the end of round 6. The final score will determine the victor of the mission. If it ends with an equal number of victory tokens, a tie will go to the Dominion. The Defiant definitely has its work cut out for it.
Okay, that's going to conclude the demonstration video that I've put together for you to kind of give you a taste for Star Trek Into the Unknown. A couple things I want to point out about the video and what we decided to do. First of all, this is definitely not, like I said at the beginning of the video, a comprehensive guide to how to play. This is really just the taster to understand some of the core mechanics of the game, but not a step-by-step rules compendium. There's a lot going on here. A lot of comparisons are going to be made between this and Star Wars Armada. You're going to see comparisons between this and other Star Trek games. This is well beyond Attack Wing. Attack Wing was relatively simple compared to this. This is going to have a lot more, I don't want to say rules complexity, but there'll be more rules governing how to do things. So as I mentioned, 7 steps to do movement. It's really intuitive, but you have to make sure you do it in order. Otherwise something might not quite work. And working with energy in terms of weapons power and whatnot can be a little confusing at the start. There's also a couple other things that I want to point out that were definitely different from the quick start guide that I have and the demonstration that I gave you. There's a lot of things that just aren't the same. The turning tool, for example, the one that comes with the preview kit has 2 notches, one at 45 degrees and one at 90 degrees. The one in the manual has 3 notches, one at 30, one at 60, and one at 90. This is definitely it makes more sense to have the 3. I don't know if this was intentional to be in the preview kit or not, but something that I saw that was kind of interesting. So there's a lot of inconsistencies and items that really need some clarification. My guess is we will see that in the full rule book. So at this stage, we've got the preview kit. We had an opportunity to review the game, and I don't want to really compare it too much to anything we currently have yet. There's definitely feelings here. You can see some of it with the movement and firing with Star Wars Armada. There's definitely a lot of some of the older games that are dealing with energy allocation that fall into this as well, and you see that in terms of the alert wheel. This requires a lot more to go on, and what's neat about it is if you really wanted to during one of your turns in the priority phase, you could get a whole ship to exhaust every single officer you have and have 1 power turn. But the amount of officers that get refreshed at the end of the turn, it's only 3. So you may wind up being kind of behind the game for the rest of it. So a lot of interesting strategy that can play out of this game. So you're going to get more out of that when John and I play a full game. And then definitely again after we get the full core set and there's more ships out. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching. And I really hope this whets your appetite for Star Trek Into the Unknown. So our next episode that we're going to produce will cover the complete learning mission. So you'll see John and I play potentially 6 rounds of the full game. It depends on the complication and when we get to it. So anyways, that'll be fun. John and I going head to head in a Star Trek game. Quick shout out to all of our patrons. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you're interested at home in joining their ranks, link is down below. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And of course, join our Discord where you can talk with me and John directly. Till next time, I'm Ken, and this is Ion Radio.